Ara seo lá har a bheith tábhachtach do muintir na Palestina, by deire leis an soscog iniu man i dhéanann Israel don bhrú leanach de rá leis. Comat leis sin is lá faoi lethe seo lá idirnáisiúnta de lú fortiíocht le muintir na Palestina atá ag tarlú gach bliain ó 1977, agus comat leis sin an lá seo 1947 ghlach an cóhinól generaltas na náisiún Aontaithe le rún a chur tús leis an críoch Giles agus an leis an réiteach dá hír. Minister, today is a very special and important day for the people of Palestine on 3 levels. Today we'll see the end of the ceasefire unless Israel sees sense. Today, and every year since 1977, following the General Assembly decision, we have a solidarity day with the people of Palestine. That in itself tells you something. And on this day, 76 years ago, in 1947, the General Assembly adopted the resolution of the partition of Palestine, a decision that saw a 2-state solution put forward as the only solution. And we see the actions and the war of Israel has put an end to a 2-state solution. Not alone are they saying that history started on the 7th of October when Hamas, which I have condemned without hesitation, attacked Israel, and they have persisted with a narrative of self-defense. That has been called by the General Secretary of the UN he called the killing of civilians that is unparalleled and unprecedented. 14,800 Palestinians, and that's an underestimated, are reported killed. A substantial number of them are children. 1.7 million displaced. Along with that, the story that's not been reported at all, the West Bank. And if we take West Bank and East Jerusalem together, they're 10% less the size of County Galway. And in that population, we have 3 million people. 700,000 Israeli settlers are in there now in 279 settlements, making a 2-state solution impossible, or nigh to impossible. Since the 7th of October, 240 people have been killed by mostly settlers in the West Bank, parallel with the slaughter that has taken place in Palestine, Gaza. And I'm here today to say we have to use our voice and not speak out of 2 sides of our mouth or 6 sides of our mouth, as has been happening. And I have praised the Tánaiste and the Taoiseach for their initiative, but that has not continued. We need a ceasefire, full stop. We need to call out Israel for what they're doing, and that is the Israeli government and a Prime Minister who's been there for almost 16 years out of 27 years as a Prime Minister, absolutely leading slaughter and the dehumanising language that's going along with that. Am I over time? Thank you, Ken Corley.
Mr. Please.
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you for raising this issue. I too want to join you in condemning the actions of Hamas, a terrorist organisation who brutally murdered innocent civilians. I too want to call for a ceasefire. What we're seeing unfold, what we're seeing in response to this brutal attack is devastating. I believe that Israel has gone too far. I've said time and time again, and I think I join with all colleagues here, that they must respond within international law. They must respond within humanitarian law, and what we're seeing does not seem to be in line with that. We've provided additional funding for the International Court. 1.3 million is what would be provided on an annual basis. We've provided 3 million in additional funding for this year to make sure that those who are responsible, potentially, for any crimes, that they're held accountable. The most important thing now, however, is that the ceasefire that we have called for, that this happens, that the pause that has happened, which I think we're all very happy to see, that continues, that the continued release of hostages, that continues. We are all overjoyed that Emily Hand, an Irish citizen, was released, that many other citizens were released, but it is so important that not only are those citizens released, but that there is continued aid that there is resources, that there is food, that there is fuel sent to the many hundreds of thousands of millions of people in Gaza who need our support and who need help. We have been united and we have been clear in that message all along. The Taoiseach, the Taoiseach, and I think the vast majority of people in this House, we have been clear in our support for those citizens, and we have been clear in our support and our calling for a ceasefire, and that will not change. The Taoiseach has engaged extensively with his colleagues. The Taoiseach has engaged extensively with his colleagues, not just for the release of hostages, not just to ensure that humanitarian aid is provided on the ground, but to make sure that we have a ceasefire so that we can all collectively work towards a solution. As a country, as a government, we have always said that solution is a two-state solution. That has not changed. I know for many it seems an impossibility at this moment in time, but the time will come where this discussion can be had and where it should be had, and it's so important that we are part of that. So our voice will remain strong on the world stage, on the European stage, and I have no doubt that our Taoiseach and our Taoiseach and all of us, as we engage with our colleagues at a European level and beyond, that we continue to call for a ceasefire, for the release of all hostages, for the immediate aid that is needed by so many hundreds of thousands of millions of people, and that this fighting can come to an end.
Connolly.
Minister, I've done my best in 3 minutes to give you a background, and still you stand up and condemn Hamas without condemning what the Israeli army are doing or the government. That's talking out of 6 sides. I did listen. You have not condemned the actions of Israel nor the army. Let me quote to you in the time I have. 36 UN experts raised the alarm about the risk of genocide on the 16th of November. Professor William Shabbas, a professor of international law, also raised what was happening in terms of genocide. Going back, Amnesty told you, and nobody has come back in relation to the report, that Israel are operating an apartheid system. The UN Watch, the Human Rights Watch, has told you repeatedly what's happening there. I'm outlining to you what's happening in the West Bank that's gone under the radar completely. And we have Israel that's waiting for the shaking of the heads tells its own story when you cannot listen to facts. I'm sticking to facts. Israel can't wait to go back on the pretense of getting rid of Hamas, and what they're really doing is destroying Palestine and the Palestinian people while you nod and shake your heads in relation to it. It is time to stand together and make words mean something. Stop the slaughter and have a ceasefire that allows for a plan, a comprehensive peace plan. That's the very least that this neutral country should be doing.
Minister, please.
And I think that's what I've just done. I think that's what I've said a number of times in my short contribution, that we as a country, one of the first countries to call for a ceasefire. We have consistently called for a ceasefire. We have consistently repeated that what Israel is doing is going too far. We have consistently said that they have a right to defend themselves. It is not for us in this chamber to decide that. It is not for us in this chamber to decide that. We have provided funding to the experts who will decide this. The most important thing here is that hostages are released, that the hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians receive the aid that they need, and that this fighting stops. That is what we all want in this chamber. The only way that that will happen is if we continue to call for a ceasefire, if we use our voice, and as small as we might be, I think our voice has always been strong on these issues around the table. If we continue to use our voice in the way that we have, that is the only way in which this fighting will stop. And we will be sure to be around the table when it does, to make sure that a solution that focuses on peace, that is the way forward.